Burna Boy stole this. No, we stole from Burna Boy. Them Africans is us, man. They the beat, they the rhythm, they the soul, they the hard work. We get our courage from this.
Steve Harvey built his career on comedy and hard work. But not every guest on his shows came with good intentions. Some tried to embarrass him, turning interviews into battles instead of conversations. And as a black host in a mostly white industry, each clash carried a weight that others never had to face. When we talk about the world of television and entertainment, the spotlight often shines on glamour, laughter, and applause. But sometimes, behind that dazzling curtain, there are storms brewing. Steve has quietly carried his own scars. The truth is, being a black host navigating Hollywood is never just about smiles and punchlines. It's about dodging landmines set by egos, manipulation, and hostility masked as just another appearance. Today, we will talk about 9 guests who appear to be evil in Steve Harvey's show. Monique, the first guest Harvey labeled evil, was not simply combative, it was personal. Known in industry circles as Monique, this guest arrived on his set with the appearance of a friend. Offstage, they shared warm laughs, old stories, and even inside jokes. But once the cameras rolled, everything changed. Instead of collaboration, Harvey was blindsided by accusations. The guest painted him as a sellout, mocking the way he had transitioned from stand-up comedy into hosting mainstream television shows. They weaponized his own struggles, twisting his past failures with money and relationships into entertainment. Every smile they wore during the segment was a mask. Every joke they cracked was a dagger meant to undermine his credibility in front of millions.
This is Monique, man. I'm telling you,
Baby, he be saying it like I'm a problem.
Oh, you have been a problem.
Well, Steve, okay.
What was it? Let's go.
Let's go.
You started getting labeled as difficult.
What made this betrayal cut so deep was the calculated nature of it. Harvey had extended trust. He had welcomed them into his house, the studio, and in return, they turned it into a courtroom, putting him on trial while the audience laughed. That, Harvey later admitted, was one of the hardest moments of his career, realizing that sometimes the people you least expect are the ones who aim to break you the most. The contrast between the warm camaraderie backstage and the icy confrontation under the lights left Harvey shaken. In the green room, the guest had been affectionate, reminiscing about shared beginnings and acting as though nothing but friendship connected them. Minutes later, under the spotlight, that warmth evaporated. Harvey realized he wasn't facing a partner in conversation, but a strategist who had come prepared to ambush. Every remark carried an edge, not the spontaneity of humor, but the sharpness of premeditation.
But it's not cool, Mo.
For who?
It's not cool.
For who?
The fact that we sitting here arguing like this.
We're not arguing.
Okay, we're discussing.
You and your sister, we having a conversation and mommy and daddy ain't here right now, and I'm getting ready to punch you in your mouth. That's the conversation. Bam, bam. Right. I think what happens, though, is I've had to understand how to agree to disagree without being upset.
The audience sensed the tension, but could not fully decode it. Some laughed nervously, others sat frozen, unsure whether they were watching a comedy segment or a public takedown. Harvey kept his composure, smiling through the storm, but inside, he felt the sting of betrayal. He had always believed that the strength of a host came from building trust with his guests. That day taught him that some see trust not as a bridge, but as a trap. After the cameras cut, the most haunting part was the guests' behavior. They walked backstage, grinning, congratulating themselves as if nothing unusual had happened. They told Harvey that was fun, as though the entire confrontation had been a harmless game. For Steve, that casual dismissal was the final confirmation of malice. This wasn't a misunderstanding or a slip of the tongue. It was a performance designed to wound. In reflecting on the betrayer, Harvey often framed the incident as a lesson about the true dangers of success. Fame doesn't only bring opportunity, it also invites opportunists. Some people will wear the mask of friendship until the moment it benefits them to tear it off. And when they do, the knives they draw are sharper than any critic's words because they are aimed not at your career, but at your character. Kanye West arrived at the studio cloaked in self-importance. From the moment their limousine door swung open, the atmosphere around the set changed. Assistants rushed to accommodate an endless stream of requests, water at a specific temperature, lighting cues tailored to highlight their best angle, and even a demand that the seating arrangement be altered so they would appear literally above Harvey during the conversation. To the crew, it was exhausting. To Harvey, it was a signal of what was to come.
I'm here to win, bro. I'm here to win.
You here to win.
You know what I mean?
Are they that obvious? Massive? 25 seconds on the clock, please. Here we go. On a scale of 1 to 10, how sexy are you compared to the people you work with?
10.
Try again.
5.
Once seated under the lights, Kanye West wasted no time in reshaping the show around themselves. Harvey's carefully prepared questions became irrelevant as the guest launched into long, meandering monologues. Any attempt at steering the dialogue back to a topic of genuine interest was cut off with a dismissive laugh or a condescending smile. What should have been an engaging back and forth turned into a performance of self-adulation. Harvey, known for his ability to connect with people of every background, tried to draw out something real. He asked about childhood, about challenges faced on the road to success, about the lessons learned along the way. But the narcissist waved those inquiries aside. "The past doesn't matter," they scoffed. "Only what I'm building now." For Harvey, this was more than arrogance. It was a rejection of humanity itself. To him, stories of struggle weren't weaknesses to erase. They were the very bricks that built resilience. Watching someone dismiss that truth so casually struck him deeply.
Come right back.
Okay.
We're not going to Jimmy Kimmel the situation.
Fair enough.
We're going to give me time to think.
Okay. Fair enough.
I'm going to use time to my advantage
Fair
in
point.
this situation. Now repeat the question.
The studio audience, at first dazzled by the confidence, soon shifted uneasily. Their applause felt forced, their laughter uncertain. They had come for conversation, but were witnessing a one-sided spectacle. Harvey could see it in their eyes, the longing for connection, for honesty, for a spark of authenticity. And yet, the narcissist offered only reflections of themselves, endlessly circling back to their genius, their vision, their dominance. What lingered after the cameras cut wasn't anger, but revelation. Harvey realized that evil doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers through indifference. It can take the form of someone who views every interaction not as a chance to bond, but as a mirror to admire their own reflection. The narcissist left the stage beaming, convinced they had delivered brilliance. But for Harvey, the memory endured as one of the most hollow hours of his career, a time when humanity was replaced by vanity and connection was sacrificed for ego. Mariah Carey. The diva's presence was felt long before she ever walked onto Steve Harvey's stage. Her team arrived early, armed with lists of requirements that read more like royal decrees than performance notes. The dressing room had to be filled with flowers of a specific shade, bottled water imported from overseas, and lighting calibrated to achieve what she called her signature glow. Even the temperature was negotiated, as though a single misplaced degree might throw off her performance. To Harvey's crew, it was a logistical nightmare. To Harvey, it was a test of patience.
Put it into words what your life has turned out for you. How would you say that? What would you think that is for you?
I would hope it's to be continued.
When the show began, Mariah Carey swept onto the stage like a monarch arriving at court. Every movement was deliberate, every glance carefully timed for maximum effect. At first, the audience responded with awe. After all, she was undeniably magnetic. But Harvey noticed quickly that the conversation was not going to flow naturally. Each question he asked was met with a clipped answer, or worse, a subtle eye roll that carried more weight than words ever could. Harvey tried to pivot, to give her space to reveal something genuine. He asked about her early career, the struggles behind the success, the sacrifices that came with fame. Instead of reflection, she leaned back in her chair and declared, "People don't want to hear about that. They want to see me shine." The words landed like a slap. For Harvey, whose own life story was built on surviving hardships, her dismissal of struggle as irrelevant was both jarring and sad. The tension peaked when Harvey shared a personal anecdote. In his style, he used humor and honesty to connect, telling a story meant to bring warmth to the moment. But the diva waved her hand and interrupted, saying, "This isn't about you, Steve." Gasps rippled through the audience. Harvey, ever the professional, smiled and carried on, but the wound was visible in his eyes.
And what is that on your neck, pray tell?
Oh, this whole thing?
That little...
This I did not get from our godmother. This is a Van Cleef piece that my new beau got for me.
Yeah.
Recently.
Behind the sparkle, Harvey saw the truth. This wasn't a guest who had come to converse. It was a performer who demanded worship. The diva didn't see the show as a partnership, but as another stage where she alone was meant to shine. By the time the cameras cut, the audience's initial admiration had cooled into discomfort. Harvey walked away with a lesson carved deep into memory. Evil sometimes comes, dressed in sequins and smiles, not to harm directly, but to erase others completely. In her world, no one else existed, and that, to him, was the darkest cut of all. Cedric the Entertainer comedy is often described as a brotherhood, a craft where shared struggle creates unspoken bonds. Steve Harvey believed in that bond, which is why his encounter with the rival hit harder than most. From the moment this fellow comedian stepped onto the set, Harvey sensed the shift in energy. There was no warmth, no acknowledgement of shared history, only a smirk that suggested competition rather than camaraderie.
Hey, man, we've been friends for 30 years, man.
Oh, wow, man.
30 years.
That's big.
Man, that's crazy, man.
You know how people say that about marriage? That's a long time in Hollywood to be friends with people, because they'll say that about marriage, but in Hollywood, even to be friends like that, that's a long time. Because, you know, you got to think of people you're not friends with. Let's start naming them off.
The rival wasted little time establishing dominance. As soon as Harvey welcomed him, he lobbed his first barb, mocking Harvey's southern drawl and telling the audience that Steve's accent made him sound like someone's grandfather at a bus stop. The crowd laughed nervously, unsure whether it was a playful roast or a genuine dig. Harvey chuckled, masking his discomfort, but he quickly realized this wasn't an isolated joke. It was the opening round of an ongoing assault. Each segment of the show brought fresh attempts to undermine him. The rival ridiculed Harvey's wardrobe, sneering at his famous suits as if they were outdated costumes. He poked fun at Harvey's clean, structured comedic style, calling it safe and manufactured for television. At one point, he even turned the audience against him, asking if they preferred real comedy to game show hosting. The applause that followed was like a dagger, not because the crowd meant harm, but because the rival had manipulated them into choosing sides. Harvey, seasoned in handling hecklers, tried to spin the barbs into lighthearted exchanges. He knew better than to let his anger surface. Television demands grace, even under fire. But internally, he felt the sting of betrayal. This wasn't banter between peers. This was one man attempting to strip another of his dignity on his own platform. The rival didn't want to share the spotlight. He wanted to seize it entirely.
You just like... Yeah. You be like, is that the Geico from the Geico commercial?
Yeah.
Just walking on it.
The studio energy grew heavier with each exchange. Some audience members laughed louder, sensing drama. Others grew quiet, recognizing that something had shifted beyond comedy. Harvey pushed through, keeping the show alive, but by the final segment, he was more exhausted than amused. When the cameras finally cut, the rival walked off satisfied, wearing the grin of someone who believed he had won. For Harvey, the win was hollow. The rival may have scored laughs, but he had sacrificed respect to do so. Later, Harvey reflected that evil in comedy isn't just cruelty, it's envy weaponized. Laughter should unite, not divide. But the rival's mission wasn't to make people laugh with him. It was to make them laugh at Steve. And that, Harvey knew, revealed a darkness that no joke could hide. Porsha Williams, every host knows the risk of inviting a professional gossip onto their stage, but Steve Harvey underestimated just how far the gossip monger would go. From the start, this guest radiated the energy of someone hunting for headlines rather than conversation. Their smile looked inviting, but the eyes carried calculation. Instead of sitting down to promote their own career, they arrived ready to mine Harvey's life for sound bites.
In the public eye, and I haven't told everybody who I'm dating. So they have me dating everybody, like a dictator's son, this young 20-year-old basketball player, a football player. I'm with everyone, and I just think it's funny. I laugh at it. I'm successful. People see me with nice things, and I'm doing well for myself. And
The interview began with a simple enough question from Harvey, but almost immediately the tables turned. "People don't want to hear about me," the gossip monger declared. "They want to hear about you, Steve." At first, the audience clapped, thinking it was generosity. Then came the ambush. The guest launched into a series of invasive questions, details about Harvey's marriages, speculation about his children, even whispers about his financial history. Each query was delivered with a sly grin, the kind that suggested they weren't really asking, they were accusing. Harvey tried to redirect. He shifted topics toward the guest's achievements, asking about projects, plans, or personal growth. But the gossip monger wouldn't bite. Every answer circled back to him, often laced with rumor disguised as curiosity. "Some people say you only give advice, you don't follow yourself," they quipped, smiling as if it were harmless banter. The audience chuckled, but Harvey felt the blade beneath the laughter. As the segment unfolded, the tension in the room became palpable. Some in the audience leaned forward, drawn in by the spectacle of confrontation. Others frowned, uneasy with the intrusion. For Harvey, the hardest part wasn't the rumors themselves, he had heard them all before. It was the fact that his show, built as a platform for uplift and dialogue, was being twisted into a stage for exploitation.
All I say, the boy got his own money. The boy got his own money.
look, for the right guy to treat me well and support me, you know what, I might say, whatever you would like. I just might.
By the final minutes, Harvey's patience was running thin. He maintained composure, his trademark smile never fading. But inside, he wrestled with anger. The gossip monger wasn't interested in truth or connection. They came to harvest attention, using his reputation as fuel. When the cameras cut, they leaned over and said with a laugh, "That'll trend by morning." For Harvey, the casual cruelty of that remark was worse than the questions themselves. Reflecting later, Harvey described the encounter as a lesson in boundaries. Evil doesn't always appear as hostility, it often arrives dressed as curiosity. The gossip monger's talent wasn't conversation, but provocation. And in the end, the scars they left weren't from the rumors, but from the realization that some people see another person's life not as sacred, but as content. Michael Clark Duncan. When Steve Harvey first greeted the gentle giant turned shadow in the green room, he expected nothing but warmth. Off camera, this guest was the picture of charm, hugging staff members, cracking easy jokes, even taking time to compliment Harvey on the set design. Their sheer size and deep voice gave the impression of a protective presence, someone who filled the room with comfort rather than fear. But once the stage lights flicked on, the persona shifted, and Harvey quickly realized the gentle image had been replaced with something darker.
All right, I had Mike on the show one morning, and I didn't know him that well. We had just met a couple of times, so we was cool, but we wasn't really that cool. I didn't know him that well. He had just got an Oscar nomination and an Oscar for his role in Green Mile, playing John Coffey. So I had him on the show, and he was you know, big dude, just big. I'm sitting there interviewing him. I said, "So Michael, congratulations on your success with the Green Mile and the Oscar and everything. Tell us what's next for Michael Clark Duncan. He said, well, if you really want to know, I'm planning on doing a remake of the classic movie, Planet of the Apes.
Harvey, experienced as he was, tried to keep the interview flowing. He slipped in humor, attempted to pivot toward safe ground, and even gestured for the audience to engage. Yet, the giant seemed intent on control. Every story turned into a subtle dig. Every response twisted into a jab that reminded viewers who held the louder voice. Behind the mask of charisma, Harvey could sense hostility polished, disguised, but undeniably sharp. The studio atmosphere grew tense. Some audience members laughed uneasily, interpreting the exchanges as banter. Others remained quiet, sensing the undercurrent of aggression. Harvey, always focused on professionalism, never broke his smile. But behind his eyes, he measured every move, aware that the conversation wasn't about connection, it was about domination.
All is called in, Steve. You need to say something to Michael. You know this ain't right. He ain't got no business playing no monkey in no movie. Click. Next caller, Steve. You got to talk to Michael. He play a monkey in the movie, this is gonna set us back 200 years. Click, Steve. You represent black people. You need to say something to Michael. I said, hold on, wait a minute, hold on. This is everybody calling in here. That's easy for you to say.
When the cameras cut, the transformation was just as unsettling as the interview itself. The giant stood, stretched, and instantly returned to the same friendly demeanor he'd displayed earlier. He shook Harvey's hand firmly and said, "That was great television," as if the entire episode had been a carefully crafted act. For Harvey, that pivot revealed the truth. The cruelty wasn't spontaneous. It was staged. Later, reflecting on the encounter, Harvey described it as one of the most chilling lessons he had learned. Evil doesn't always roar with anger. It can smile, it can laugh, it can even charm. The gentle giant had entered as a friend and exited as one. But in between, he had shown how quickly warmth could turn into shadow when the spotlight burns bright. Katt Williams' chaos has always been a part of comedy improvised lines, unexpected tangents, moments that catch both the host and the audience off guard. But when Steve Harvey sat across from Katt Williams, he quickly realized this wasn't the playful unpredictability of a skilled comedian. This was disorder used as a weapon.
This is like Steve Harvey telling people he used to be homeless. That's my story. That's not his story. Steve Harvey wasn't never homeless. When Mark Curry was touring with him 25 years ago, he was making $3,000 a show in cash and doing 5 shows a week. They just tell the story.
From the opening question, Harvey sensed trouble. He asked about the guest's new project, a safe entry point designed to let them shine. Instead of answering, the chaos comic launched into a rant about the failures of the entertainment industry, complete with wild claims and exaggerated stories. The audience laughed at the energy, but Harvey noticed there was no rhythm, no punchline, just noise wrapped in bravado. As Harvey tried to regain control, the interruptions grew sharper. Every attempt at structure was dismantled with another tangent. When Harvey asked about the guest's early career, they mocked him for playing it safe, sneering that his success came not from talent, but from being marketable. The audience roared, but Harvey heard the venom beneath the laughter. The chaos wasn't accidental, it was aimed directly at him. Harvey leaned on his professionalism, trying to guide the storm into calmer waters. He cracked jokes to lighten the mood, attempted to redirect toward meaningful conversation, and even invited the audience's applause to reset the energy. But the chaos comic thrived on disruption. They thrived on the unease, on the spectacle of derailing a seasoned host in real time.
Then you asked it, why you not a movie star? I didn't want to be a movie star. This the same Negro that hated on Bernie with this same thing. I didn't want to be a movie star. No, you couldn't be a movie star. There are 30,000 new scripts in Hollywood every year. Not one of them asks for a country bumpkin black dude that can't talk.
The longer it went on, the more polarized the audience became. Some clapped louder, drawn to the unpredictability. Others sat in silence, uncomfortable with the hostility disguised as humor. Harvey, though outwardly smiling, was engaged in a quiet battle, one where his dignity was on the line against someone determined to turn comedy into combat. When the cameras finally cut, he leaned back in their chair, satisfied. "That's how you keep people talking," they said, as if the destruction of flow was a badge of honor. For Harvey, it was the opposite. He had built his career on timing, precision, and connection. Watching comedy stripped of those values and twisted into chaos left him shaken. Later, Harvey reflected on the experience with a clarity born of pain. Not all laughter is good laughter. Some laughs come at the cost of respect, and some comedians mistake disruption for brilliance. For him, the chaos comic symbolized a form of evil unique to entertainment, when talent chooses to tear down rather than lift up, leaving only wreckage behind. Patti LaBelle. Among all the guests Steve Harvey hosted, none carried an aura of spectacle quite like the eternal diva. Her arrival was not a simple entrance, but a full-scale production. Long before she stepped on stage, her entourage flooded the studio stylists with rolling racks of gowns, assistants juggling phones and bottled water, managers issuing instructions as though they were directing a royal procession. For Harvey's team, it was organized chaos, a backstage storm that foreshadowed the tempest to come.
An affectionate term your man calls you that starts with baby.
I have it. Baby boo. Baby mama. Oh, shut up!
When she finally walked out, the crowd erupted. She glided across the stage as if it were a throne room, pausing just long enough to soak in the applause. At first, Harvey thought he could work with her grandeur. After all, part of hosting was meeting people where they were. But he soon discovered that she had no interest in conversation. She demanded worship. Each question Harvey asked was met with rehearsed answers, carefully crafted to highlight her beauty and power, not her humanity. When Harvey tried steering toward genuine stories, her upbringing, the struggles behind the glittering image, she brushed them off with disdain. "People don't need to know that," she said, her tone sharp. "They only care about how fabulous I am." The audience chuckled politely, but Harvey felt the chill beneath the words. The most difficult moment came when Harvey stumbled slightly on a detail, mispronouncing the name of one of her projects. Rather than laugh it off, the diva halted the show. She corrected him with icy precision, then demanded the producers redo her entrance because the first hadn't captured her proper essence. The room fell silent, the energy collapsing into awkwardness. Harvey, ever the professional, kept his composure, but the humiliation was undeniable.
Go ahead, Patti.
I'm sorry.
What do a widow do at her husband's funeral?
She laughs.
Behind her sequins and flawless smile, Harvey saw a truth he would never forget. This wasn't a person sharing their story. It was a performance of superiority. She didn't acknowledge the host, the crew, or even the audience as equals. To her, they were props arranged around her stage, existing only to amplify her shine. When the cameras stopped, she swept away with the same grandeur she had entered, leaving behind exhaustion instead of admiration. Harvey walked off set with a sobering lesson. Evil doesn't always come with cruelty or confrontation. Sometimes it arrives in entitlement so absolute that it erases everyone else. In her world, there was room for only one star, and that was the darkest reality of all. Kevin Hart, few encounters unsettled Steve Harvey more than his time with the show stealer. From the moment he guessed walked on stage, their intentions were unmistakable. Their body language radiated confidence, not the kind that builds camaraderie, but the kind that declares, "This is my stage now." Harvey, a seasoned host, welcomed them warmly, but behind the smile, he could already feel the weight of a looming contest.
Appreciation for the love that I get has skyrocketed because I'm now doing a service. I'm providing laughter, I'm providing happiness. When I go and I look at the track record of those individuals in that picture, it's such a high level of happiness that's associated with all of them.
His strategy was simple. Every laugh, every gesture, every reaction had to orbit around them. When Harvey asked a straightforward question, the guest responded by mimicking his southern drawl, exaggerating his expressions until the audience erupted. What should have been an answer turned into a caricature of the host himself. The audience, caught in the spectacle, roared with laughter, unaware of the quiet humiliation playing out under the lights. As the interview progressed, the guest escalated their tactics. They turned segments into stand-up routines, delivering rehearsed stories that overshadowed anything Harvey tried to say. When Harvey attempted to share a joke of his own, the guest interrupted, topping it with a louder punchline that shifted the spotlight back onto them. To viewers at home, it might have looked like playful competition. But to Harvey, it was a deliberate erasure of his authority, a calculated move to strip him of control on his own stage. The audience's reaction deepened the sting. Some clapped harder, swept up in the energy, while others shifted uncomfortably, sensing the imbalance. Harvey stayed calm, smiling through the barbs, but he could feel the sharpness of every jab. This wasn't camaraderie, it was conquest.
What are you talking about? Like you was in there doing back-to-back stunts. You didn't do any stunts, Q?
I did all my stunts.
No, you didn't.
All my stunts.
Mr. Triple X himself backed out. Let me tell you what old used to be action mode did. He came out tough. No, put the stunt guys to the side. I got it. He did one stunt, threw him up against that wall a little too hard, didn't they?
When the cameras finally stopped rolling, the show stealer leaned back in their chair with a grin of triumph, as if the taping had been a victory lap. "That was my best set in months," they boasted, treating the appearance less like an interview and more like a personal showcase. Harvey shook their hand, but the exchange left him cold. Reflecting on the experience later, Harvey understood what had unsettled him most. The guest hadn't just stolen laughs, they had stolen dignity. Hosting, to Harvey, was about generosity, about creating space where stories could be shared and celebrated. But he saw generosity as weakness and seized it as an opportunity to dominate. In Harvey's eyes, that was the darkest kind of evil. Not loud or angry, but subtle and smiling, using charm to reduce another person to a prop. And on that day, the man known for commanding every room walked away feeling like a guest in his own house. When Harvey reflected on these 9 guests, he didn't just recount awkward interviews. He exposed the darker truth of show business. Not everyone comes to connect, to share, or to uplift. Some arrive with hidden agendas, whether it's betrayal, domination, gossip, or humiliation.
Hollywood is the land of illusion. Most of us, man, are not making what y'all think we making. We just not, man, because we in that system. And it's not just...
For Steve, every encounter was a test of resilience. He had to smile through insults, keep composure during chaos, and protect his dignity in the face of calculated cruelty. But these scars also became lessons. They taught him how to stand firm, how to recognize manipulation, and how to value authenticity above all else.